Hey, welcome to the first of what I know will be many, many weeks of critiques that are being offered to the photographic public by myself as well as many of the incredibly talented instructors here at the Bryan Peterson School of Photography. I am Bryan Peterson along with Kathleen Clemens. We are the first instructors to offer these critiques on this particular week. And of course, next week and following in the weeks to come, you will have the opportunity to have your work critiqued by two other instructors here at the school. So without further ado, let's begin on this week's selection of those 5 images that were all submitted within the last week. And after making a selection, very random, I might add, we are about to embark on sharing with you a number of ideas that we feel these photographs could be improved upon. And let's be fair, we also intend to let it be known with great kudos and shout outs to those photographers who submit those photographs that really and truly require nothing to be improved upon. They are simply just amazing images. So we're looking at getting not only images that could use a little help, but images that are beyond help, meaning that they're already so wonderful. Why would you want to do anything but simply say, wow, that's an amazing image? So again, let's begin. And in fact, we'll start first with this photograph from Darlene Bean. And she titles this image, appropriately enough, Love in the Air. I want to say, first of all, when you submit images, it's not at all important to me personally that you title the photograph. In fact, sometimes a title, let's call a spade, it can hurt you with some judges, particularly in contests, because if your title is not appropriate for what they feel the content is, that raises some questions about your own ability to see and interpret a photograph correctly. But me, I'm not a fan of titles. I can take it or leave it. But I would agree, this is definitely an image that looks like love is in the air. The image itself taken with a Nikon D300S and a 600mm f4 lens. Since the D300S, for those that are not familiar with that camera, is a smaller sensor camera, what we call a DX sensor, that 600mm that Darlene is using is in fact a 900mm. I'm assuming it's a 900mm because Darlene does not indicate if in fact it was a 400mm, and if it was a 400 then it becomes a 600. So I'm going to assume it's a 600, then throw in the fact that that then makes it a 900 with the D300S. Either way, whether it's a 600, which is in fact would be a 400 with a multiplier factor of 1.5, doesn't matter. Bottom line is this is a fill the frame up with 2 mating birds. And what a terrific job you have done. I have nothing to suggest otherwise that it needs this or that. All in all, compositionally, it's an amazing shot. And exposure-wise, I want to commend you here for the most obvious of exposure choices in that you used an aperture that was very close to wide open. 4.5 is what you indicate in your description, which tells me that this particular image was taken almost at wide open, and subsequently that renders a background of out of focus tones and colors and shapes, and those out of focus tones and colors and shapes do a tremendous job of calling attention to the 2 focused birds. All in all, it's safe to assume, and rightly so, that when the human eye looks at a photograph, it makes a really quick interpretation of whatever's in focus must be the subject and whatever's out of focus must not be the subject. So obviously all of the focus is on these 2 birds. Great job. One thing I will mention, however, I did notice that the image itself is a little bit yellow overall as far as a cast. Could be because your white balance isn't cloudy, which wouldn't surprise me. Cloudy's a good choice, especially on a cloudy day. However, with the Nikon D300S as compared to today's processors, It's an older color processor, and subsequently in cloudy, it adds a little bit too much warmth, as opposed to the cloudy processors of cloudy settings of today's white balance settings. So with that in mind, I'm going to go over here. It's a really quick fix. We simply go under image. This is Photoshop. Under image, you'll see color, auto color. We just click on that, and look how quickly auto color senses also what I had described as being a little too warm, a little too yellow. And it cleaned it up, and now these birds are more than likely closer to their real natural color of a somewhat white and gray tones. So other than that, it's a fabulous image. Good job. Love it. And moving on to the next photograph taken by Carrie St. Ong. This is a lone cabin. Carrie, I don't have the information on this, so I'm going to kind of wing it here. To me, it's obvious that this is a telephoto lens. I'm guessing a zoom, 7200, 7300. You're, I doubt, standing in a boat, but you're either on a dock or just across the lake from this small cabin. And a couple of things here that are really easy to fix with this photograph. But first, let me describe compositionally what I feel is hurting you. The cabin itself is a little too centered. The tree next to that cabin emphasizes that centeredness of this particular cabin. Bullseye effect. Now, the good news is, because it's a mirrored reflection, the brain doesn't get tripped up too much with the sense of it being static. Also, when it comes to mirror reflections, you've handled this beautifully, and that is to say, it's one of the few times you'll split the frame into two parts, equal parts, that is. But again, we're still stuck with that cabin being somewhat bullseye right in the middle. And that's an easy fix. While you are there, I want to stress, while you're there, you would simply move a little more to the left, which then in turn puts the cabin a little more to the right and gets it out of that somewhat middle territory. Now, as far as the crop is concerned on this, because it's somewhat tilted, it's an easy fix. But again, these are things you can do in camera while you're there. But since you were not able to for whatever reason, we'll simply fix it here and straighten things up. That's one thing. The other thing is, it looks like your white balance is probably in auto. And I'm saying that because of the overall bluish cast, which auto white balance has a tendency to do, particularly when you're outdoors. So, with that in mind, same thing. We'll go back here to this little tool in Photoshop under Image, Auto Color. Click Auto Color, and just like that, it warms up this photograph. And now it's probably a better representation of what you saw when you were there. That'd be my guess. So, little quick fix with Auto Color, a quick fix with the compositional tool. And to be clear, when I talk about moving the cabin off center, let me show you what I have in mind. This is more along the lines of what I was thinking would be a much better balanced composition overall. So again, something you could do next time when you're out shooting is to keep those central subjects out of the center of your frame, and instead utilize on the left or on the right hand side of what is familiar to most people as the rule of thirds, or what I often refer to as the suggestion of thirds. Next, we're going to move on to a photograph taken by Nina Kling. This was taken, as she describes it, on a remarkably cold winter day, yet she was inside the Metropolitan Museum, and she was very fortunate. I understand the feeling of being fortunate, and there you are photographing this amazing image of lines, which, by the way, she was doing in a weekly, as part of, I should say, as a weekly photo challenge. She refers to this in her description. And the subject for that week was, the theme, I should say, was lines. Well, clearly this is an image of a great deal of diagonal lines, both top and bottom. And by top, notice we have the top third of the structure and the bottom 2/3 reflection of that structure in the water here. And what I love about this image, for maybe not so obvious reasons, is yes, the person there really creates a great sense of interest and scale. It gives a landing spot for the eye and the brain to fixate on. But more than that, this particular frame shows the person's right leg heel up, a foot about to go down, which is a very strong indication that this person is on the move. If both feet were flat, and the legs were somewhat together, this person, for whatever reason, would be seen as a person who stopped. And I don't like that idea of that person having stopped. That's why, again, I'm fortunate. I feel fortunate for Nina that this person was on the move and she captured it with the appropriate shutter speed, I might mention. She seems to be a quick study of, okay, I'm going to need a faster speed. And subsequently, that person walking was momentarily frozen as they were walking. And this, to me, is a way of emphasizing the overall feeling of this. With those strong diagonal lines, there's a lot of movement and speed being suggested by that. And then having the person walking, clearly you'll notice that their feet are also at diagonals. So this is just diagonals everywhere. I love it. What's also nice is the stability that's being offered by the strong vertical lines of what appears to be a small little fence with a cable running through it. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those vertical lines that make up the fence, which I'm, of course, keeping people out of the water. Anyway, great job. Love it. Fabulous. I hope that your group that you're participating in with this challenge was able to recognize what an amazing image this is, and keep up the good work. And now we move on here to an image by Bill Clipp. Bill says in his description that he was fortunate to be staying at a private sheep ranch that straddles the northern coastline of the peninsula of Valdez, which is down in Argentina. Many of you, if you've seen the BBC specials as well as Discovery Channel, will probably recognize this right away, as this is the killer whale feeding ground. And it's important, I want to stress, killer whale feeding ground. We've perhaps seen and even looked away from the television when those videos from this area show up on the big screen in Discovery Channel or BBC. And why do we turn away? Oh, because we're watching the killer whale grab a baby seal and throw it in the air. And in some cases, oh my God, we see the bloody water, and we might even see blood all over the face of the killer whale. And oh, those poor baby seals, we might even remark. Well, here's the problem. If we don't have the benefit of seeing those television specials and relying solely on Bill's description, there's nothing in this photograph to indicate that these seals are really in any danger whatsoever. And I say that especially when I look at this image and see that the seals and the killer whale are remarkably close together, apparently, and appearing to be playing almost, frolicking together. I see nothing in here that these seals are indicating that they're about to become someone else's food. With that in mind, Bill mentions that he's been there for 2 weeks, 10 hours a day at this one particular location. One, if that were true, man, I think that's an amazing amount of discipline for you to be there that long, and the fact that you're hopefully shooting during that time then opens the door to the next question. You certainly must have far more graphic and more telling images of a killer whale feeding off of these baby seals, and perhaps even a baby killer whale being taught by the mother how to feed, which I've also seen on those videos. So the image describes it as such, yet we see no evidence of a killer whale actually feasting on these seals. It's one of those images that begs more questions than answers, and I say that because of your description, how you describe the amount of time that you spent there. So one other little trick that might be a little more telling, then again perhaps not, but without benefit of the beach, the perspective on this image changes too. Now we're left to believe that, my God, man, where were you? You were really close to these this killer whale and these seals. And now if we see, of course, a seal in the mouth of the killer whale, we're led to believe that in fact these killer whales are not there to body surf with the seals, but they're there actually to grab themselves some lunch before moving on. So the idea, once again, is the image makes perfect sense based on your description that this is a feeding ground for killer whales, but it also then raises the other question is, show me the proof. And this particular image does not do that. And so, again, perhaps you've got something far more graphic. And if you do, I'd love to have you send it to me personally. My email's real simple. It's my name, Bryan F. Peterson at mac.com. Would love to see the far more graphic images, as I think probably some of our viewing audience would too. So feel free to pop me a copy of that, and I'll be more than happy to make comments about that as well. And again, thanks, Bill, for sending in this one image. And finally, we'll finish up here with Gary Cohn, K-O-H-N. Gary describes this image as photographing a woman who had spent the bulk of her day crabbing. This is out on the East Coast, and the sunset has gone down in this particular bay, and he gets a shot of her as she rides her small little skiff back home. Amazing image. I love it. Absolutely love it. It's a flawless exposure, vivid colors, and he makes a point to say that he did not clone out the small utility poles on the distant horizon line because he wanted this picture to be a true, honest portrayal. It's interesting comment that he makes in his caption about the utility poles, because I wasn't aware that utility poles make or break the reality of a photograph, particularly in this day and age when a lot of utilities are underground. Nonetheless, the poles are there, and I will stress they do absolutely nothing to detract from this very compelling image. And for all intents and purposes, let's break it down into what makes it compelling. Number one, without a doubt, I would say, is the somewhat tranquil mood of this, combined with very, very striking color and contrast. We have orange, magenta, and yellow. In addition, we have this wonderful blue, cyan-like blue, running through the wake left from the boat. And it begs the question, okay, that's obviously Photoshopped. And then the answer is no, it's not. I have myself personally had success recording images like this over the years, and that blue, if you look closely, is facing east. We're looking due west right now, and the wake of that water from this view as you look west, we're actually getting a eastern view of what the water is seeing. Well, clearly to the east over my shoulder behind me, the sky is, for obvious reasons, a dusky blue color. You'll see this yourself. Any sunset you shoot, you turn around, the sky is a dusky blue. And subsequently, it's reflecting in that water the dusky blue sky to the east. It's very easy to account for. Again, fabulous exposure, kind of an aim and shoot. I don't know if you shot this in aperture priority or not, but I do know you shot it with an Olympus OMD EM1 with a 40 to 150 2.8 lens at the 150 mark. ISO was 250 at 1,000th of a second. The fact that no aperture is indicated is not an issue. I can look at this at 1,000th of a second and probably assume with 250 ISO that your aperture is somewhere in the f11 to f16 range. Actually f8 to f11, I should say. So, fabulous photograph. Wouldn't change a thing. Again, terrific job all in all. So there you have it. There's 5 images. What a thrilling opportunity this is going to allow us to do here at the school, all the instructors. We're very, very much excited every week to know we're going to get 5 new shots. And in some cases, we're going to do nothing but praise the photographer. In other cases, we're going to make a number of suggestions on how to improve it. And perhaps the most fun of all is that it's possible, since I have no idea what Kathleen Clemens, who is also critiquing these same 5 images, I have no idea what's on her mind, how she's going to react. So let's see if by chance we're going to generate some controversy. Hey, once again, this is Bryan Peterson, reminding all of you to definitely take advantage of the opportunity to upload some photographs for us to critique of your work. And perhaps even more important, this is also Bryan Peterson saying, you keep shooting.